Hello and what is going on YouTube? It's BigHatBrock coming at you with another book video. Today we're going to be talking about the Horus Heresy Warhammer 40k books. I just recently, within the past year, got into reading these books, and I have just been blown away by how much I've liked them, how good they are. I'm locked into the series. Now, the series started back in, I think the early 2000s. I think 2006, And it started with this bad boy right here, Horus Rising. There's that classic glare. Every time I make one of these videos, I'm like, there's a glare on the book. By Dan Abnett. And before we get into this book, I'm here to talk about this book specifically. But before we get into this, I always like to give a little bit of background here. As I've said before, I like Warhammer 40k. I don't know a ton about the universe. I mean, I'm learning a little bit, but there's still so much more to learn. I know that there is an emperor because the Space Marines are always for the emperor, and the Imperial Guards are for the emperor. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so they're doing all this for the emperor. I knew that there's a bunch of different factions of Space Marines, and I knew that something, I'm the emperor is hurt or something, or he's stuck on his throne. I don't know. Maybe he's dead. He might as well be dead. I don't know. And I knew that it had to do with a character named Horus, such the Horus Heresy, Horus Rising. And I was always curious. I'm like, so what's the story with this? What's the deal with this? And I looked up the Horus Heresy series, and I am not kidding. The series is this book series alone is 60 books. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm not reading all those. That's ridiculous. What the heck? It's they do the Horus Heresy, and then there's the Siege of Terra, which is a continuation, and that itself is 20 books as well. I'm like, dude, that's an insane amount of books. Who is going to read all of those? So I kind of just put it on the back shelf. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm sure it's cool and all. And then if you watched my best book I read of 2024 video, I talked about the book False Gods and the Warhammer book Salamanders that kind of helped get me into this. And I was like, you know what? I'll just try the first book. I'll see how it goes. If I don't like it, I'm just not going to read anymore, right? And so I got Horus Rising, and it was really good. I fell in love with the series and the characters and everything off of this first book. Here's the cover again. I kind of I like the gold with the black background. Here's the side of it. Here's the back of it. And I remember getting this and seeing the cover and feeling something about the cover. I was like, this is going to be a special book, or something about this feels important. And so we meet Captain Loken, and we meet Horus himself, and we meet the Remembrancers. What a banger of an opening for a book. As I said before, I still don't know the super specific details, but I was like, yeah, I think the Emperor's doing something, and then Horus betrays him somehow. That's all I knew. And so we start with this book, banger of an opening. Someone is talking to Captain Loken, and they're like, you were there when Horus killed the Emperor. And I was like, whoa, dude, the book just started. Are we already getting into this? And essentially the book has this amazing, bait and switch at the start, where the Astartes, that's the Space Marines, they come across this civilization that is essentially they have their own Earth and their own Terra and their own Emperor, but out in space, separated from everything that we are a part of. And the Space Marines go to war with them, and they have a fake Emperor, and Horus kills that Emperor. And at the start though, I was like, we're just getting right into it. Is this how it goes? But then it turns out, no, like I said, that was not the real Emperor. That was not the real Terra, all of that. So already from that point on, I was I was locked in. One thing I love about these books, and we'll get more into this one, but I feel like I'm talking all this extra stuff, but I'm very, to this day, I do like complicated storylines. As a kid, I saw everything as who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And then as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, some stories are more complicated. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I've read plenty of Warhammer books where like the Space Marines are fighting orcs, and it's this big battle, and I think it's really cool. And it's like Space Marines are the good guys and orcs are the bad guys. But this book did a great job of like as it went on, I kept thinking like, what's happening here? Like, are the Space Marines really the good guys here? Essentially, what's happening is the Emperor. And again, if any Warhammer fans in the comments, please, feel free to spell this out a little bit better than I'm about to. It's like the Emperor has unleashed the Space Marines to go across the galaxy and conquer planets in his name and just have like one way of living, which is like everyone is in the Imperium under the same rules of the Imperium, like every planet. And it's like you either conform or die. And at first I was like, oh, well, if they're just fighting like orcs and, the orcs are like enslaving people and like the Tyranids are monsters. So like, what's the big deal? But one of my favorite parts of this book, they have these characters called the Remembrancers, who are kind of like wartime photographers, kind of like, to kind of catalog what's happening in the wars. And there's a part, I can't remember which character it is, but she's talking to Captain Loken, and she's like, tell me about the adventures like you and Horus and Abaddon and everybody have gone on. And he says like, there's one place, which shout out to these people, he said there's one place they went to where they didn't fight back, but they just all danced in these massive hats and all these big hats. I'm like, heck yeah, shout out to big hats. I like that. And then he says like, they fought these lizard creatures that they would only do war inside of like a giant, what they called the kill box, which is like this massive like warehouse. They found the civilization of lizards that just fought inside of this. They would only fight in the warehouse. And they're like, well, what'd you do? And they're like, well, we didn't fight in the warehouse. We just destroyed them. And I was like, okay, well, I don't like that. Like, that's not like, you could have just moved on and left them alone. And that's kind of like I kept thinking like, maybe they aren't the good guys. I'm like, but I like these people, but like they're just going planet to planet, conquering everything. Like they don't have to do that. One of the main important characters is the Remembrancer Cinderman, who's just like, everyone's kind of going along with the crusade, and he's like, hey, wait a minute, this is pretty messed up. It's like that first planet I was talking about. They conquer the people, and they're like under the shadow of a giant titan, and it's very like, it's like, oh, we're like forcing these people to live our way. I was like conflicted. I was like, I like the Space Marines, I think they're pretty cool, but like, is this right? And I'm happy that that's kind of that's a cool like through line throughout the book. I was worried that it wouldn't be acknowledged, that I'm like, they're kind of doing some messed up stuff, like, is this really right? But it's cool because they actually acknowledge that. That's kind of the point of the story. This book is separated into like 3 distinct acts, we'll call it. The first one is on a planet called, I can't remember what the first planet's called. It's like a number. I was gonna say 2319, but that's from Monsters Inc. But we have on 2319. Then we go to a planet called Murder, which they nickname it Murder because so many Space Marines are dying on it due to these mega arachnid monsters. And then we go to the planet with, I can't remember what it's called either, but it's with the aliens called the Interax. The only thing about this book, and I guess in hindsight it isn't quite bad, my only complaint is that they're setting up a lot of stuff which doesn't become apparent until maybe like the second and third book and so on. But the first time reading this, I was like, this is really good, but we're kind of just not really going anywhere. Like there's these interesting concepts, but like that's essentially the job of, Horus as the War Master. He's just like in his giant ship, like, all right, this planet. All right, now we go to this planet. It's like, okay, these people need our help, so we're going to go to this planet. But when they face the mecharachnids, we're introduced to like the sons of the Emperor, or the children of the Emperor, and we meet Saul Tarvitz, who I think is a really cool character. And I was really surprised at the depth of this book as well. I feel like I want to make sure that is well known, because they talk about how the Space Marines have like a lodge, and then this is where they're all like, how do I want to say this? Nobody's rank is higher than the other. They go there, they talk, they have their little boys club, all right? It's like they're talking about their feelings, or they're like they put the past away, they put their differences away to just talk about what it's like to be a Space Marine and what they're doing. And again, I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, and someone can share, like, hey, maybe I don't like this, but as long as what happens in the lodge stays in the lodge. Which at first I was like, wow, this is really cool. But that ends up being a very dangerous part of the story. We'll get into that as we get into the next couple books. And they're fighting these creatures called the mecha arachnids, who are like, giant mechanized spider creatures. And they're beating up on the Space Marines pretty easy. But I was like, and then reinforcements gets there, and then they're like, we're gonna destroy the mecha arachnids. And again, I remember thinking like, well, yeah, they're evil, but you can just leave. They didn't do anything. You're the one who invaded the planet. And then the alien species, the Interax, show up, and they're like, oh, we trapped the mecha arachnids there because they're dangerous. And so then that kind of puts a whole new spin on it as well. And then we meet the Interax, and then there's a misunderstanding there with them. Man, I loved it. I loved the Mournival, which was Captain Loken, Abaddon, Torgadon, I think, and Aximand, little Horus. And it's like the 4 main lieutenants for Horus, and they kind of have their camaraderie. I love the camaraderie. I love the boys getting together and just going to war, but also there's like, hey, maybe we should stop and think about this, right? It's a great mix of everything. Also, there's some fun horror elements. We get the ending, so some slight spoilers. Some spoilers here. They run into this weapon. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a sword that's like connected to the warp. And this is before they know about the warp. This is before they know about the dangers of the warp. And the Interax go to fight the Astartes because they think they stole this sword. They have their fight. They escape. And at the very end of the book, so spoilers here. This is like the very last couple pages. There's a bit that I don't know. Like, it kind of just happens, in my opinion, for no reason. But there's Captain Loken is talking to a remembrancer, and they're like, "Well, what happened?" They're like, "Well, the Interax attacked us because they think we stole something." Horus I forgot to mention, I should have said this off the rip. The Space Marines, this group of Space Marines are called the Luna Wolves. And then at the end, Horus renames the group to the Sons of Horus. And I just remember being like, why did he do that? Like, I feel like that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I don't know, like that part to me just kind of came out of nowhere. And then at the end of the book, Loken is like, I've never been more sure. And they're like, more sure of what? She's like, I've never been more sure that the Emperor made the right choice to have Horus lead us as the War Master. And again, I was kind of like, I mean, you just had this big fight, yeah, but what exactly made you say that? I mean, I guess it had to be from that specific fight. I felt like those two things I kind of threw in the end there. But other than that, a great book. Another spoiler here. One of the members of the Space Marines did steal the sword, and that kind of leads to a domino effect of things to come. Horus Rising. I loved it. I'm really happy I read it. I wanted to review these. One, because I like it. I like sharing the books I have been reading and really enjoying. But two, because these are reprints of the original books. And it's only been these first 3 that have been reprinted, and some other Siege of Terra books. And I want to read more, all right? Because I've read these first 3, and then the 4th one is like $30 to $40 online. I'm like, I don't want to pay that much. I paid like $8 for this one. Let's see. Okay, sorry, I paid $9 for this one. But I want to get this out there. Maybe like we can start a slow traction to help. Maybe they can look and be like, oh, people are interested in these books being reprinted. But Horus Rising, big fan. I want to talk about the sequel, False Gods, and then the one after that, Galaxy in Flames. But yeah, just I urge anybody, don't judge a book by the cover. There is action and gore, and it's very visceral, and it's intense, and there's some male bonding, and it is masculine, but there is also a nice, like I said, there's another side of it of like an introspection of like, are we doing the right thing here? Are we the good guys? Have we actually been, doing the right thing? And there's like some horror elements as well. So I love when a piece of media can combine all different genres together to make a good book. So I love the camaraderie. I love the sci-fi. I love, like, the Primarchs are cool. All of it. So how far am I going to read these books? I mean, if they're as good as these first 3, I'm going to keep reading. I don't know if I'm going to read all 60 plus. Like, eventually I might have to get some audiobooks or, get them on like, digital download or something, which I love. I love the physical copy. I've said that before. I love physical copies of books, but like an entire, like how many times am I going to read those 60 books? I'll probably read them once in my life. I don't know. We'll see. But there we go, everybody. That was Horus Rising. I hope somewhere in there I made some sense, but I love it. I recommend it. I keep holding it up. I'm holding my left hand with the microphone now. I'm holding the book off camera. Here's Horus Rising. I'm hopeful that they'll keep reprinting these books and I can keep reading more of them. So there you go. If you've read this book, please let me know what you think. Please leave a like and subscribe. And have a nice day. I will see you guys in the next video.